In today's lesson, we're going to learn to create an FTP server out of our Linux machine. In the beginning, if you don't have one, you're going to find error messages like this that say permission denied, because your client, that is the Windows machine, will try to connect to a server, but if there is no FTP server software on the other side, you can't connect. First thing you'll need to know is your internet address. Since these machines are all on our network, you're going to have to figure out what the IP address is of that machine. If you're connected on home, the same thing. You'd have to know your IP address, because your machine is not known by a name, it's known by an IP address. And so before we install this here, we're going to check and see if there's any updates. Do all that, and then the installation is going to be of a program called VSFTPD, and we're going to install that. Once you've got it installed, we're going to then go and copy. CP is the copy command. We're going to copy the vsftpd.config file that's in the etc. folder to another one with the same name, .org, so the original. That way, if we made a copy of it, in case somehow we ever screw it up, we can always go back and copy the original back to where we are. That, of course, needs to be done with the sudo command, because the etc. folder has permissions that only the root user can write to. Now, I ran a command called ufwstatus, but I had to run it as root, so I put the sudo in front of it, just testing to make sure our firewall is inactive. So, if I don't put that sudo in front, if I were to just type nano and slash etc. vsftpd.config, that's the config file, what would happen is I wouldn't have the write permission, and you'll see down there warning no write permission. So that is your indicator, if you forgot it, that you better go back and redo it. So doing it properly now by adding sudo in front, putting in my password, I get into the config file. Now that config file, you'll notice uncomment this to enable any form of FTP write command. So that write enable equals yes. I just wanted to point that out right there. And then I'm going to go and restart the VSFTPD. The D, of course, is the daemon. That's the program, the server program. So system control restart VSFTPD. And once I get there, I now have this server all set. Now, if I wanted to connect from a Linux server, from a Linux desktop to a Linux server, that I would need down in the bottom where it says connect to server there. I would click on that, and then I would type in my server address. If you're using the Mars server, or whatever variation we have of that, you'll notice port 10822, and it's SFTP. That's because that's what we have on our campus. If in fact you're using something at home, it might just be plain old FTP, and you might not need to specify your port number. Once you get logged in, of course, whatever you have in there is what you're going to see if you have anything in the Mars server.